Now, breaking news regarding the Middle East. Canada is among a group of 5 nations that have announced sanctions against 2 Israeli cabinet ministers for what they claim is inciting violence against Palestinians in the occupied West Bank. The CBC's Crystal Gumansing is in Jerusalem, joins us live with more on this. So, Crystal, what more do we know about these sanctions?
Well, Arthi, this is being called a coordinated international response. The UK Labour government just releasing these details. It involves, obviously, the UK, Australia, Canada, New Zealand and Norway. And as you mentioned, this is specifically looking at violence and the incitement of violence in the occupied West Bank. And it looks at 2 specific members of the Knesset, ministers in Benjamin Netanyahu's government, Bezalel Smotrich and Itamar Ben-Gvir. And I'm just going to read you part of the release that we just received. It says, in their personal capacity, Israeli government ministers are now sanctioned for their repeated incitement of violence against Palestinian civilians effective immediately. This again is in the occupied West Bank. A joint statement was released on behalf of all of those foreign ministers of the named countries by UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy. I'm just going to read you the exact quote from him as well. It says, "We are steadfastly committed to the 2-state solution and will continue to work with our partners toward its implementation. It is the only way to guarantee security and dignity for Israelis and Palestinians and ensure long-term stability in the region, but it is imperiled by extremist settler violence and settlement expansions." Now, Arthi, this was long talked about as a possibility coming from the United Kingdom. It goes back very many months, but now we do see this coordinated effort, not only by the UK, but Canada as well, trying to sort of put some pressure on members of Netanyahu's government, although it does say that they are being personally held responsible for inciting violence in the occupied West Bank and encouraging those settler expansions. So that news just breaking, and we are already getting reaction from Israel. We did hear just a short time ago from Israel's foreign minister.
We were informed about UK decision to include 2 of our ministers on the British sanctions list. It is outrageous that elected representatives and members of the government are subjected to this kind of measures. I discussed it earlier today with Prime Minister Netanyahu, and we will hold a special government meeting early next week to decide on our response to this unacceptable decision.
And just to reiterate, Arthi, it's not just the UK, but Canada, Australia, New Zealand and Norway being described as an international response.
And another developing story that you're following, because you also have the latest on the activist Greta Thunberg, who was detained by Israeli forces for taking part in a symbolic mission to get aid to Gaza. What is the latest on that situation?
Well, she was one of the first individuals who were a part of the 12-person crew member on board the Madeleine that was, of course, intercepted in the early morning hours of Monday. She arrived in Paris and gave a number of interviews to foreign media who were on site waiting for her. We do know that one other individual also left about the same time. Israeli Foreign Ministry says 2 others are expected to depart today. For her part, the well-known Swedish activist, mostly known for her environmental work, said that they will keep up the pressure to ensure aid gets into Gaza. She is calling on all individuals to contact any representative to ensure that that happens, saying that she wasn't even able to say goodbye or check in with her other crewmates before she was deported. Take a listen to what she had to say when she landed in Paris.
This is yet another international a violation of international rights, adding to the list of countless of such, especially towards Palestinians, that Israel are committing by blocking and preventing humanitarian aid from entering Gaza. That is illegal. The real story is that there is a genocide going on in Gaza and a systematic starvation following the siege and blockade now, which is leading to food medicine, water that are desperately needed to get into Gaza is prevented from doing so.
Now, as for the other members of that 12-person crew that were on board the Madeleine, which that ship is still docked in Ashdod, they will go through a deportation process, an expulsion process. We don't know exactly when that will happen. We have heard from the organization behind that vessel, the Freedom Flotilla Coalition. They say they will continue to work with all of those individuals to monitor their whereabouts to make sure that they do eventually get released and they are able to return home. But they say their work has not ended. They will continue to advocate to ensure that aid gets into Gaza. Arfi.
Thanks for this, Crystal. That is the CBC's Crystal Gumansing in Jerusalem.